Hey YouTube, there was a Summoners Duel tournament over the weekend and I thought I'd analyse some matches because I like figuring out how decisions snowball and affect the following turns in a game of near-perfect information. The only thing that stops this from being a perfect game of information is that you don't know what the enemy captain's skill is turn 1. Although you can probably heavily imply it based on who their captain is, and you'll be able to discover it turn 2 based on whether or not the zone shifts or their special acceleration on the enemy allies. So I'm going to start looking at each player's drafts and talking about their strategies and matchups going into the duel. Something to preface before I begin, I'll be showing calcs on screen to see if a carry unit can take out their check. So in this match it would be Paola versus Alphonse. I'm not going to expect these players to know this in the moment since it takes preparation to figure out how much damage you'll deal, and it's, again, unrealistic, so I won't expect them to know this, but I'm going to show it nonetheless to see how ideally these players should play if they had all the information at hand. And I'll be focusing on why a player is making a move and how it impacted the game, rather than trying to give my opinion of what's going on. So for example, my opinion of Veld is actually not that great. I don't think he does too much, but again, I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to talk about how I think he's bad and just focus on what he provides for his team and what that means for, Marbles' team, or how Eldervi has to play the match. Now, I suspect that Marbles is going to want to take out this Azure, since Azure is giving Pal attack buff. So if you want to win, you need to take out the units that enable Pal. So you're going to want to take out this Azure. So if you take out this Azure, then who has the lowest HP, attack, speed, and whatever, right? HP is not going to matter because turn 1 is just going to hit Azure. Turn 2, the lowest attack falls on Bernadetta, so it won't even hit Pala. Turn 3, it'll hit Pala because lower speed. Turn 4, defense is going to be hitting Bernadetta. Turn 4, lowest res is going to be hitting Eliwood. So if Eldervi basically charges in turn 1 or 2 and prevents Yuri from going in, or takes out Alphonse, then he can take control of this match. But back to Marbles' team. So Ninian has Even Pulse Tie, and Even Pulse Tie has been hyped as a great counter skill to instant specials, and in a way it is, but there is a counterplay to Even Pulse Tie, and the counterplay is to take Secret Maneuver. So if you have Secret Maneuver and your special is at 1 charge, Even Pulse Tie can't reduce your special charge or add to your special charge because it's not at max. Your special needs to be ready for Even Pulse Tie to work, right? So at the start of turn 2, Bernadetta and Eliwood are going to be getting their specials charged. But because their specials weren't charged at the start of turn 2, Even Pulse Tie has no effect. This Yuri is running Lethality. So Lethality is basically going to let Yuri one-shot basically anyone on Eldervi's team. Unfortunately, Paola is going to be in vantage range, so he's not going to be able to take out Paola. So the next best thing that he needs to do with Yuri is take out Azure. You want to give your Alphonse the best chance at surviving this Paola, because at 80 attack, if you take into account Alphonse's bonuses to res, which is +5, you also got a -4 because Paola has a range skill, he has 31 res. So Paola's 80 attack goes down to 64 against Alphonse, so 64 minus 31 is 33 per hit. So Alphonse is dead if Azura has an attack buff for Paola. So what if there was no attack buff and Veld hits Paola on turn 3 with a debuff? So she gets 61 attack. Against blue enemies, this gets reduced down to 49 attack, so 49 minus 31, and this is 18 per hit, which is looking good until you realize this Alphonse cannot touch this Paola at all. But I'm not going to expect Eldervi to know that, so he's going to have to play around this Alphonse. So what can Marbles do? Well, because Marbles has a Veld, I'm going to assume he's going to be hitting Azura turn 1. He's going to try and snipe Azura turn 1 or turn 2. This Azura is only going to be able to be reached either here or here. So with Yuri's 3-turn movement, he's going to need to be repositioned up, so about here, right? So 1, 2, 3, or have Not in this spot and Yuri here. So 1, 2, 3. But because this tree takes 1 extra movement, that's going to reduce Yuri's movement down to 2, so it can't go through this way. So if you're somehow able to reach Azura turn 2, then you can take out this Azura and cancel away before Paola even gets her buffs. And then you can safely retreat and set up for Alphonse to take out Paola when he readies his Ignis on turn 3, and then turn 3 is when you want to make your play, right? Marbles has to play aggressive turn 1 and turn 2 to get rid of the Azura. So he's going to be trying to move his dagger and his Yuri all the way up here. Or at least turn 1, I think that's what's going to happen. So let's have a look at what happens. So he repositions Yuri up, And from here, my guess is he's going to want to shove Veld, use Veld to shove Dagger up here so Yuri can reach, right? So if he shoves Dagger up here, Yuri can move 0, 1, 2, 3 and reach Azure, right? So what Eldervi has to do is block that and protect his Azure turn 1 so Yuri can't go for this kill. Which is why, and this is why Eldervi puts his Paula here. This is actually a smart move. But by placing Paula here, he protects his Azure, right? So now if Marbles wants to smite his Dagger up, Yuri's not going to be able to reach this Azure. And because of this forest here, Yuri can't move to this spot and get the KO either. Eldervi positioned really well in this turn. So, like you can see here, Marbles goes for the smite, and this is probably his best strategy if he wants to take out this Azure, because it gives Yuri insane range, while Veld limits Azure's range. So his plan probably involved crippling Azure with Veld and having Yuri go in for the kill and counter out. But unfortunately, Eldervi positions well and protects his Dancer turn 1. So now, because there was no kill angle, Paola's going to get danced, and Yuri is going to have to make a decision to kill Azure, because Azure is vulnerable right now. You have to take the chance, or else this Paula is going to roll over your team. So he takes the kill and moves Yuri over to the left here. So now Paula has free reign to do whatever she wants. And at this point, it's looking pretty bad for Marbles. He's losing momentum right now. Even if his captain is in the zone, this Paula is going to be hunting down his team. And he can move in with Bernadetta, and he can take out Dagger. So already there's a 2 for 1 at play, and honestly, it's more worth for Eldervi since he gets to push up more and more forwards into the zone. Even if the zone moves down by 1 spot, being able to push up negates that advantage, if that makes sense. So Bernadetta is going to take out Dagger. Now turn 2 is looking pretty bleak, but there is still hope. There's still the turn 3 Velv debuff on Paula, and Alphonse getting his Ignis off and maybe surviving, right? So Marbles is going to prep this Ignis. He's going to move Paula to safety because Bernadetta is being hit with the debuff right now. Does Alphonse... Oh, I don't know if you saw that, but Alphonse could not get the KO. So this Alphonse can't survive, and that's really bad because that means that this game is pretty much over. The only hope was killing Paula on turn 3, and Marbles is unable to do that, so all he can really do now is just run away. So as you can see, Paula doesn't even need the special to take out Alphonse. So yeah. This match is definitely over at this point, so there's not really much else for me to say, so I'll just be moving on to Game 2. So, Game 2, and things are looking a lot different. For one, Marbles is the one rocking the Raid Boss Paula, although this one doesn't have bonus doubler or legendary Azure, so a little bit less of a threat range and a little bit less power. The only one who even has a chance of surviving is Ash, but if you look at her res stat, even with attack res solo 3, she only hits 41 res. And that means that if you do the math, 70 minus 21, without anything else, that's 29 damage per hit. So that's not going to be enough to survive, and that means that this Paolo, once again, does not have a counter or a check. So there's no way for Eldervi to take out this Paolo. So he has to look for something else on the board. His win condition is going to be probably something to do with outmaneuvering this Paolo, maybe using Earth's Rendering to stall, or either using Ash and Micaiah to sneak a couple kills, maybe get into the back line, or even set up Vantage. So as expected, Marbles reciprocal aids and then counters in to set up some room for himself to move his other units in. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention before is this Maribel. So this Maribel is both good and bad for certain reasons. One, she's bad because she's running Odd Recovery. The problem with Odd Recovery is at the start of turn 3, if she's within range of Paula within 2 spaces, because that's how Odd Recovery works, she's going to be healing Paula, and if she heals Paula, Paula will be knocked out of her Vantage range, and you definitely don't want this to happen, because then Micaiah will be in range to one-shot your Paula. Continuing on, Marbles places Maribel in the zone for 2 points. This is looking pretty bad for Eldervi since being down 2 points means that you need to start being the aggressor in order to win, because if both players are at a standstill, then the player who's 2 points ahead will just naturally win. So this is probably the definitive moment. Well, not definitive, but this is probably going to be like a defining part of the match. What happens in this turn is probably going to dictate the pace of the rest of the match. So if this turn goes well for either combatants, I can really see them picking up a lot of momentum. For example, Eldervi is able to get 1 or 2 picks on Marbles. This can really give him momentum to start sweeping the rest of the other units. If Marbles finds a way in, then momentum is easily going to be swinging in his favor. So Eldervi opts to just keep his Henriette there, and I think this is... I want to say I don't like this, because now that you've moved, ended Henriette's turn, you can't use her to protect Micaiah if you want to go for an aggressive play. So what I mean is, Thor right now is in range to reposition Ashe in, and if you do that so that you can play aggressive with Micaiah, then you won't have Henriette protecting this Micaiah. And as I said before, unless you're killing Maribel, Maribel is the counter to Micaiah. If Maribel is in range to take out Micaiah, then that's worth the trade for Marbles to go for, because it means that there's no chance that Eldervi can set up for a stalemate situation where this Micaiah is in vantage and threatening just like Paula is. And you might be wondering, well, what should he have done instead? Doesn't look like he can really get anywhere, right? In my opinion, I think that the correct play for him to go for is to move Thor up into the river. Even though it's in range of Maribel, if Maribel goes for the kill, then Eldervi will be able to trade back and get rid of the Maribel and potentially get ready to set up vantage in the following turns. So, as I said before, the problem with having odd recovery on Maribel is the fact that you're going to have to keep Maribel separated from this Paula. Now, because Paula has to be 3 spaces away from Maribel, this forces Paula to move forward by 1 space, right? But I think that Marbles should have moved the Paula first, so he has the option of dancing with Peony if he wants to start attacking Micaiah, because we know that Paula's going to be able to take out basically everybody on the enemy team, right? And Henriette has already ended her turn. So if Paula moves forward first rather than Peony, then that lets Peony go for a dance, because Peony right now is, if Ashe moves up, then Peony's in danger. So I think the correct order would be to move Paula first, because then you have the option to dance, and you're going to have to move Paula up anyways, because Maribel is going to be healing up Paula if she doesn't get out of the way. Looks like he's going to take the kill on Gunthrow. So now Eldervi still has 1 action left on the Ashe, so she's going to be able to reposition this Micaiah away. So it looks like Marbles is going to go for the kill on Ashe and counters forward. So that was actually a really smart play. First reason is what I covered before. Killing Ashe limits the offensive range of Micaiah, and countering forward puts pressure on the rest of Eldervi's units, because come next turn, another unit will be killed. So now Eldervi has to basically trade on Peony, otherwise he's going to be losing even more momentum. And that's exactly what he does. So, Duo Peony is going to set up Micaiah's vantage. So right now, Eldervi has their own vantage raid boss, but if you remember correctly, Maribel is still a counter to Micaiah. So I have a big problem with where Micaiah is standing right now, and the problem is that Maribel can just walk up to Micaiah, and this Maribel has attack speed push 4, blade session 3, and dazzling staff. So this Maribel is going to be able to take out this Micaiah in 1 round. And if Eldervi wanted to trade back onto Duo Peony, the correct spot to do so would be from this trench right here. So if Micaiah was in this trench right here, then both Bernadetta and Maribel will be out of range. Thor is still protected by Henriette, and Eldervi can still make offensive plays with these 2 units, and a dance for Raphael. If Micaiah was on this trench right here, right? And Marbles ends his turn. That's the assumption, right? Thor can just reposition this Micaiah down, then Henriette can smite Micaiah up to this spot right here. Raphael can dance Henriette and then smite Micaiah again, so that Micaiah ends up being here. And at this spot, Micaiah has a choice. Micaiah can either go for Winter Bernadetta, or Micaiah can go for Maribel. Now, if you're a vantage unit, you're going to want to take out the counter, and the counter is a Maribel. So this is going to lead to Micaiah taking out Maribel, And if both of them stay nearby, then that means that Winter Bernadetta is going to be in range of Micaiah, and Winter Bernadetta has to run away or risk getting one shot on the following turn. Because from this position, Micaiah is out of range of this Paula, so Micaiah can keep chasing Winter Bernadetta and chase her out of the square, and then Eldervi can get 2 points for capture on the following turns or whatnot, right? But, you know, what if, well, Marbles doesn't completely end turn and only ends one of his units' turns? Then the correct play for Eldervi to protect his Thor would be to, instead of just repositioning straight away, move the Henrietta up by 1 spot. So this will protect this Thor after repositioning Micaiah. So what this means is that Micaiah will only be able to reach here, but that's still enough range to threaten both these units if they stay within the zone. So, you know, what if Marbles, you know, sees this and moves his units away? Well, if he does that, the only spot for Maribel to get away from Micaiah from one shove, Micaiah being right here, is Maribel has to be here. So Maribel has to move all the way 3 spaces up. So that means that Winter Bernadetta also has to move 3 spaces away, right? So 1, 2, 3, or here. So Maribel has to be in this position. If, for example, Bernadetta ends up being in this position, then there's no spot where Maribel can move where she'll survive. So it looks like the counter is dead. Maribel is going to be taking out Micaiah, so there's no Vantage stalemate going on, and from this point I think Eldervi lost a lot of momentum, but he'll still show signs of life. So he's going to shove his Thor forwards, and seeing this, Marbles is going to reposition away. But Eldervi is going to keep chasing. His only remaining play is to, again, go for another dance, goes for another shove, and now Thor can take out Winter Bernadetta. So he moves Maribel away, and now there's pretty much nothing Eldervi can do, and you know, the game is pretty much over. So there's really not much else for me to say at this point. Someone's going to die to Paula, and that will be game 2. So I'll be moving on to game 3. So the way Marbles should be going about this is going to be using Not to the best of her abilities with Pathfinder and threatening as much space as you can, especially in the center. And there are 2 things going for Marbles with this map. So if you notice that both teams don't have flyers, right? So that means that either the Cavaliers won't be able to go through the forest, or the other units, the armored and infantry units, will take their time moving over this forest. So this means that there'll be 2 approaches for both teams. Eldervi's either going to move down here and choke this point right here, or he's going to try and sneak around this side here. So if you want to play aggressive, you want to place your node very far up and in range of your Cavaliers. And you need to make sure that the most threatening Cavalier is going to be in range turn 2. Eldervi is running even Pulse Tie, which counters both Legendary Sigurd and Reagan on turn 2. They both have the same amount of HP, so they're going to be losing their specials, especially since Sigurd is running Quicken Pulse and Reagan is running Sather Shell. And Reagan's not running her preference weapon either, so she won't be getting Canto. She's running the Ninja Katana. So that means that Otter is going to be the biggest melee threat to Eldervi's team. Ninjarin won't be threatening that far unless she gets a dance. So she can only move this far, or here. But if you want to maximize range, Ninja Karin can only move this far, and then you gotta count 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3, and that threatens this area, right? And that might seem threatening, but that also means that that takes 2 turns to set up, and Ninja Karin will be in the open, so Legendary Sigurd or someone else will be able to return kill her. So it's very unlikely that Ninja Karin will be pushing through this choke point here this early. So I recommend placing Not in this spot right here, turn 1. And having her in this spot lets a Cavalier return kill, because then, if you have Not here, the closest spot she can go is right here. Brave Erica's not going to be in range of Not because, well, if Brave Erica wants to move down, she has to move down right below Nils. If Erica gets danced, 1, 2, 3, then this spot next to the forest isn't going to be threatened. So in my opinion, I think Marbles should position Not in this spot here for turn 2 and have Ocha nearby. And of course, Legendary Sigurd has 4 movement, so you definitely want him also threatening space. But unfortunately, he's been checked quite hard this match because One, even pulse tie, and two, Bike is running the Duel captain skill, which means that he gives null follow-up to his allies. And if Legendary Sigurd can't get the follow-up attack, he has no way of activating his special. Because if Legendary Sigurd can't activate his special, a lot of the offensive power of Marbles' team is kind of gimped. So, again, Marbles' opening strategy, in my opinion, should consider having Note in this position right here and Ota slightly behind, ready for turn 2. Because then you can fight for this choke point on turn 2 and keep Eldervi at max range, and as the Earth's rendering effect takes place, you can begin to turtle a little bit or make picks depending on what happens. So let's move on to Eldervi's team. So Eldervi's running a Windsweep Corrin. This Corrin is going to be a major key player for Marbles because this Corrin on player phase is going to be able to nuke basically everyone on Marbles' team, and I don't think any of them can survive. So how is Eldervi going to want to be playing this? Well, Brave Ike is going to be walling basically everybody on Marbles' team as well. There's not a single unit that can one-round him or get past his damage reduction. So his value as a tank is very high this game. But it's pretty risky turn 1, only because even Pulse Tie is not in effect yet, right? So at that point, Legendary Sigurd and Reagan still has a chance to KO him with their specials. So Eldervi is going to want to be waiting till turn 2 to be pushing Brave Ike up. Turn 1, I think Marbles definitely has the advantage. Both the tanks that Eldervi have brought are both susceptible to the specials that Marbles brings. So if he plays turn 1 hyper-aggressive and covers a lot of distance, so you definitely don't want to leave a unit in range of Ota. I think the only person that can tank Ota is going to be this Brave Ike. But again, you definitely don't want to leave Brave Ike in because, you know, there's a chance that either Legendary Sigurd or Reagan will move in instead. So Marbles has the clear turn 1 advantage. Eldervi has to play slow turn 1. He has to play slow. He can't move too far in, even though it might look like Eldervi has the advantage in terms of team comp. Where is he going to position? Well, he can't overextend with any of his units, so it's very unlikely for Eldervi to be moving past this point right here, or even this choke point here. They're at risk of getting one-shot by Ota. There's a play that Ota can make, and he can counter away, right? So you definitely don't want to put a unit here. And he definitely wants to keep Ninja Corrin and Brave Erica behind the tanks to be able to play hit and run or counter away. So if we have a look right now, it appears that Eldervi is getting ready to move his tanks up like I thought. Marbles needed to move his Note 1 space up, because right now, Note is not going to be threatened by anybody. So this square is a potential square that you're not making use of. What's the range of this Erica, right? So this Erica, after being danced by Nils, is going to be able to move 1, 2, 3, right? So this square is safe. On the next turn, you know, maybe Ninja Corrin is going to be threatening you, right? 1, 2, 3, again, that's threatening as far as this spot. 1, 2, 3, threatening as far as this spot here. You lose nothing by having Note here, and if your Ota was in range, you'd be able to threaten the tanks up here. But unfortunately, Ota is over on the left. Instead, if it was Reagan that was moving the Surtur in, and Ota that was near Not, that's a lot more threatening. Okay, so turn 2, I think it's pretty clear that if Ota was actually close to Note, that this Brave Hector would be able to be one-shot. So imagine that Ota was actually behind Not right here, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, one-shot Hector, 1, 2, 3, and move back here. It's a 5 versus 4, and the Earth's rendering effect is going to keep pushing the zone down, and Eldervi has to keep funneling his units through here and here. So I think Marbles missed an opportunity to pressure the map by not having his Ota next to his Not. So you can see that Note is forced to retreat since Marbles is going to have to give up a unit in that situation if he stays, right? So you can see that not pressuring with Ota earlier, because Hector is there protecting Ninja Corrin, he has to back off here. If you're ever using Pathfinder, being forced to pull back your Pathfinder unit is, well, it gimps your offense a lot, and basically it removes any strength, any potential strength that you had with positioning, especially with what your team is built around. So this lets Eldervi push up forwards, like even further than he, in my opinion, should be able to. So it appears that Ninja Korin is going to be able to get a free kill on Sota. So even though Sota was basically countered this game, I think that forcing a 1-for-1 trade with Sota for Korin would be basically the best play you can make with Sota. Maybe position aggressively and have Sota protect one of your units while you push forwards. Eldervi is making great use of Bike as a tank. He is going to be the wall that's protecting both Brave Erica and Ninja Korin as he pushes forwards into the capture zone. So because no one can kill Ike, he can just keep moving forward and have Ninja Korin pick off units with Wind Sweep. I find it odd that Ota stays there. I would have thought he would have repositioned out. Obviously, if Ninja Korin goes for the KO on Ota at that point, if Ota counters away, then that's just a kill for Ninja Korin, and I think that Marbles would have a way back into the game. Because I also read a message of chat saying that Bike should be repositioned away, but there's absolutely no reason to reposition Ike away. You'd be giving up a lot of offensive pressure. And, well, what do you really lose by letting Ike die here? If Ike dies here, this lets you bring in Brave Erica for a KO, and with Brave Erica moving in for the KO, who's going to really stop her? Legendary Sigurd and Reagan both get one shot, and Not is running darting stance. She doesn't really have a player phase to threaten Brave Erica. And then you still have Ninja Korin left to take out the Not, or she hasn't taken her turn yet. And you also have a dance from this Nils at the back here. So repositioning Bike away is almost a game-losing mistake in my opinion. Because if Bike gets repositioned away, then you can move in to take out Ninja Korin, Ota gets protected, and then you can move in to save Ota. So Eldervi goes for the attack on Ota. I think this is his best play. The reason why is, after that, Ike has basically done his job. He's protected Ninja Korin. Ninja Korin is basically protected for one turn. With time ticking, Reagan goes for the KO, and Brave Ike is gone. That's a worthwhile trade, in my opinion. Here we go, one shot. So at this point, it's pretty grim, and I think most people can see that the game is pretty much over from here. All Eldervi really needs to do is move forwards with his Ninja Korin. Doesn't matter where Sigurd or Not moves, they cannot run. So I'm going to skip ahead. So that was game 3, and I think this is my first time analyzing a 3-game set like this. I definitely spent a lot of time thinking about potential moves and what I think is the best move. And admittedly, I am a little bit new at this, so hopefully I can improve over time, especially with my commentary and enunciating words properly. I think I stuttered a little bit, but hopefully I got the message across and the analysis was satisfactory for everybody watching. I'm going to be looking at some of the other games I thought were very interesting, so I have 2 other sets in mind that I wanted to look at, so look forward to seeing that soon if you're interested in content like this.